To me, what grinding is a two-part mindset, if you will. It's seeing the body as something that can be improved upon, and it's also the willingness to do something about that today. It's not waiting 25 years for some expensive people in lab coats at some corporation to end disease. It's approaching a stranger that you've obviously never met before, having him jam a scalpel into your ring finger, slip in a little tiny neodymium magnet, and sewing the whole thing back up, and seeing what that does to your perception of reality.
I kind of grew up in the punk scene when I was a kid, and you know, back then we were like shoving safety pins in our face and things like that. Pretty much, we've got grinders in our community that are hardcore, man. They are ready to implant if we can get robotic limbs, things like that, ready to roll. That will be just as good or better as you know, fleshy ones we have now. They will self-amputate and put these on. I mean, that's what they want to do. So, I mean, I might be in that crowd too. I don't know.
So it's been a long journey from me, years since I first started looking into this and thought it was pretty awesome before I actually got involved with grinding until I did my first grind. So one day, my friend and I were going to Taco Bell in town nearby. I was like, you know, man, can we stop at a tattoo shop just so I can see if they'd be remotely willing to implant one of these magnets that have, you know, they'd stick that in me, you know, later on. And so I go in, and the lady I talked to, she's like, well, you know, we don't really do that, but wait 1 second, let me go get somebody. And so she goes back there and brings this guy over, and he's got tattoos all over him. He's got, you know, Teflon implants that raise different parts of his face. He's got massive gauged ears. He's got piercings. And then he started talking, and I noticed he had a bifurcated tongue as well. And I thought, this guy knows what he's doing. And he had everything that he needed to do to implant a magnet. So he's like, well, do you want me to just do it here? And I thought, yes, I do.
When I was giving a presentation in some class, like I went to plug in a power strip and I definitely felt a tingle and I had this like, whoa, that's so cool moment. And everybody in the class is like, the fuck is he on? Like, what's going on here?
Put some Hot Pockets into the microwave, turned it on, and I was watching it go around and around because, hey, we on Hot Pockets. And, like, you know, it hasn't been too long, but I'll see, you know, if I can feel anything, you know, what's to lose. So I started bringing my hand towards the front of the microwave, and I was bringing it in, and I was just like, wait a minute. And I felt it for the first time. It lets me see reality in a way that such a small percentage of people will ever get to experience reality. I can sense magnetic fields.
I don't know how to describe it because it's like inside of you, like moving around. It's cool, but it's a hard.
It kind of feels well, it's obviously like a vibration, you know. So you get close to anything that's like got an alternating current, you have your hand by it and you can feel the magnet vibrate in your hand. You know, it almost feels like it has a texture, you know. So when I wave my hand by something, it'll kind of feel like I'm running my finger across something, you know, something really rough, maybe with ridges or something, but because it's kind of vibrating.
But you can feel like wiring in the wall sometimes, outlets, electric stoves definitely, cell phones, computers, like external hard drives are pretty interesting. Sort of have like a pulse depending on it. You know, if you have a bunch of wires in the wall maybe, and like one goes to the lights and lights are on, you can feel that. And then if somebody in the other room turns on like, I don't know, the TV or something that's using that same wiring, there'll be like a change.
I can tell which pole I'm closer to. I know that the south end of my magnet is on the pad side of my finger, and the north side of my magnet is on the fingernail side. So I feel this very gentle push or pull depending on which way the magnet in the environment is facing.
I've used a hairdryer for like drying out books that got wet. I can definitely feel that. A power drill is pretty interesting because there's like the vibration and already from drilling, but then the entire, like, there's a huge electromagnetic field because it's using that in the motor. And proceed it, like, it's slightly more, I don't want to say wheel because that's not right, but like there's an extra dimensionality to it.
It's weird. The best way that I've been able to describe it is that it's like a fast muscle twitch, like you might get a tick in your eye. I think that's what they call it. Or, you know, a muscle tick. And it's just like for a little bit. I'll be pushing around a little magnetic ball with my finger, like a buckyball, I think they're called. And sometimes I'll get it a little bit too close to my finger and I'll go shooting through the air, stick to it. And it's just this constant, comfortable, reassuring pressure is just sitting there, like something that you don't feel normally, because not only do you feel it on the outside of your finger, you feel it, the pressure on the inside. And it's like a hug from the future. The town I grew up in, the motto was Gateway to Recreation, where it was really big for hunters, fishers. So there wasn't a lot of interest in building computers and electronics and all of that. Growing up, I liked to take things apart. I wanted to figure out how they worked. That was the goal, anyway. I got very good at taking things apart. I was pretty okay at putting things back together, and I didn't get very far when it came to figuring out how stuff worked. I'd usually, you know, tear it down, and then I'd get down to the circuit board and the electronics. And I would think, I have no clue what this is or what it does, but it's awesome, and it's important.
Geez, I don't know when the jetpack was invented, but I remember seeing, you know, clips of it, you know, like in the 70s or whatever, right? And I always thought, man, that's the coolest thing in the world. You know, like I want a jetpack so bad. We've lost our future. We've really been born into a generation of cowards. They've got these brain implants, these deep brain stimulators. You can stick them in different parts of the brain, right? And they'll stimulate parts of the brain to give you different kinds of effects. Like, you know, if you suffer from chronic pain, there's a region in the brain where you can put one of these things, and you know, with the click of a button, whatever pain you're suffering from is gone. You know, even if you don't have say a problem, right? If you were to stick one of these deep brain stimulators in a portion of your brain. Let's say if you have like ADD or something like that, right?
Yes.
You can essentially overclock, to my understanding, you can essentially overclock that portion of the brain for cognitive enhancement, right? So, you pretty much have like a super memory or something like that, right? Or super processing, something like that. But if you don't suffer from something, they're not going to give it to you. People are happy to take somebody who has a limitation, right, and elevate them to the status of normal. You know what I mean? But if you're talking about taking somebody who's normal and then elevating them to something that's better than most people, there's a real problem with that in modern medicine.
It was like Easter weekend, like 2 years ago, with some friends, and we had been drinking, and we went outside, and somebody went to climb a tree, and I remember reaching up and like climbing the tree up after this person like going on some like semi-drunken monologue about how the tree was so alive, and you could like feel it and stuff, and me being like, but it's lacking like a sense. There's like, it's not giving off any electromagnetic field. It feels sort of like, I don't know, like shallower or something. I've had dreams where like, at first it was like, a dream would be like, I'd be like doing something in my mind, I would be like, am I awake, am I like asleep? And then I'd go and like try and consciously feel something that I knew would have like a tingle. I'm like, am I dreaming? I couldn't, and I'd be like, oh, I must be dreaming. But then, maybe a little while after that, like it started sort of showing up in my dream, like sometimes we'll feel things in my dream. And I who knows if that's like just the dream, or if like I roll over my bed and maybe I brush a wire near my desk and like it's sort of bleeding into your dream. Like sometimes that happens with other senses. I think in general I do pretty high degree with faith in science and stuff. I think I'm sure like what we know, what we understand will change.
I intend to change my body in many ways above and beyond just having a magnet implanted. There's not a lot that I'm working on that will be integrated into myself, but I do have several projects that I'm working on right now. One of them is a voice modulator that I'll have in a respirator so I can walk around talking like a robot. And that's pretty fun and neat. But it's a lot better when you consider another project that I'm working on. It's a mechanical claw that I'm building. It'll be driven by a solenoid that can push 110 pounds. It'll be strapped to the outside of my arm in a tube.
This is something that's like sort of always fascinated me. It's like in the future cyborgs, but for now it's just like little enhancements, I guess.
Eventually what I hope to do is put force sensors on the tips of the fingers of the claws, so that as I'm applying more and more pressure with them, I'll be able to feel an increased vibration in my magnetic fingers, so that I will have, biofeedback for this claw that's completely metal and plastic. And so far, this is the claw as I have it. Had it machined fairly recently. As you pull the centerpiece out, then it closes. Once I get the solenoid put in here and hooked up to this centerpiece, then it'll be my own awesome crushing claw.
I have been planning to get more magnets, but it just hasn't come to fruition. But that would also like allow me to perceive more of like the shape of the field, which would be cool, because right now it's sort of like I can perceive it by like moving my hand around, whereas like having two, I can perceive it at like multiple points at once.
The magnets are really funny because there's some people who get them and it's like a life-changing experience. They now have this kind of sixth sense, and anyway, it's a really strong sensation for some people, and for some people it's not such a strong sensation. It's kind of funny. So when I got it, I really liked it. I still love it. I enjoy it. For me, it's not that strong of a sensation though. So it kind of made me want more. Coolest thing for me is that, I would love to someday have like a swarm of nanobots, right, at my disposal, who just transform themselves into anything I wanted at my will. I could communicate with electronics like almost telepathically, right? And I don't launch myself into space, just drift off the void, explore.